Welcome to Visualize, the podcast where collaboration fuels change. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and each week we'll explore incredible connections between nonprofits, businesses, and the community. This is a space where we highlight inspiring partnerships, uncover strategies for creating meaningful impact, and share stories that show how working together can make all the difference. Whether you're a nonprofit leader, a business owner, or someone just passionate about building connections, this podcast is for you. So today, really looking at trying to build connections and collaborations between for-profits and nonprofits and nonprofits. Any way we can build a collaboration effort, that's what we're trying to do here on Visualize. So today, I have Glen Benjamin from LAN Infotech, who is a wealth of knowledge, especially in the IT realm. So, Glen, tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, Momo, for recording. So, Glen Benjamin, LAN Infotech, that's the day job, where we are primarily managed service provider, which means we take care of people, companies, business information, the infrastructure, we protect it. We look at cybersecurity because somebody's got to. Not many customers we deal with are really protected. We're also a Microsoft partner, but the reason you have me here today is a big piece of our business, which is really growing, is in the nonprofit space.
Yeah, that's actually how I met you. Mm-hmm. Initially, I was introduced to you through Carol Boston, but then like the first thing I met you at, like I think in person, was a nonprofit fundraiser, and Christina Da Silva was there, and she had a table, and then I got to actually see your space. So it was a really good introduction.
Mm-hmm. And here we are some 3 years later for you.
2 years.
2 years?
2 years exactly.
Okay, here we are.
Yeah.
And because of what's happening in technology in general, this is escalating faster than anybody could have ever imagined.
So wait, what is escalating faster than anything?
Well, it's this famous 4-letter word we talked to about. AI.
Isn't that 2 letters?
It is, but if you don't do it right and you don't have a plan or a process, you could screw this up pretty badly and leak your information, which is
my gosh, yes.
which is my real job. And when LAN hired me 5.5 years ago, they mentioned about nonprofits. I'm like, I've never dealt with a nonprofit. Don't worry, you're never going to deal with it. And about a month later after I started, when people realized where I landed and they knew what Michael Goldstein, the CEO, had set up, they were asking me questions. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And here we are 5+ years later I get calls a couple a week on what can we do to generate money, sponsorships, how do we get sponsors? And again, this big word called grant funding we'll get into in a little bit. Oh, yeah.
One of the next pieces that I wanted to cover is some of the collaboration highlights that you actually got to work with. What nonprofits stand out in your mind that LAN Infotech and you personally have worked with? What have you done? Where are those?
And how much time are you giving me here?
I mean, not forever, but okay. Give me a good story.
So the ones that we're collaborating on a regular basis. You mentioned Christina. That was when she was with Hands On South Florida, I think is the new name, right?
It's the new name,
She's now at Flight Center. And hi, Christina, if you're watching. We do a lot of work with Neighbors for Neighbors, which is Katie Marr. Those are 2 of many. And then we have affiliations where in fact, we are an affiliate of Nonprofit First. They're in the Palm Beach area. We do a lot of work there. We've met lots and lots of nonprofits and trying to get them to understand, one, you got to have a business plan first.
So important. Every business needs to have a business plan. Got to have that exit strategy. You need to have all of these things lined up so that it can live on and it can build a legacy.
But more importantly, you're not going to get any of the grant funding. You're not going to get cyber insurance. You're not going to get a lot of things. Ooh. And I know we don't have time to talk about everything. No, but you're not going to get those kind of things unless you have a plan put together.
And I know cyber insurance is extremely huge right now. And I know that what I've been hearing is now all nonprofits are required to have it. So you have to kind of build out that. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
I'll speak for Palm Beach County.
Okay.
It will eventually permeate Broward, Miami-Dade,
Yeah.
Martin, and all that. But Palm Beach County put their foot down earlier in 2024, even late 23, that says you're going to have a plan. You're going to train your employees to understand cybersecurity, and they need to be tested. And that information needs to go back to Palm Beach County. So we're an affiliate of Nonprofit First. We already have that mechanism in place. If you're not doing it, forget everything else we're talking about. If somebody hacks your data, whether it's your list of donors, your sponsors and such, you could actually be out of business. And if you don't have what I call cyber insurance to help cover or remediate those costs, this conversation I'm having with you is useless because you're not going to be around to do anything about it. So.
That's true. So one of the things that we're trying to talk about is collaboration. This is actually a good segment. Like, this is something you actually help train the nonprofits on.
Yes.
You also help them find the access to get them what they need to get them the cyber insurance that they need to continue running.
We will get you the right resource. We are not allowed to provide cyber insurance. To be
you need somebody
clear.
else.
Yeah, you have to be a licensed insurance company.
Correct.
And because if you don't do what you're told to do and something happens and you have a hack, your cyber insurance just tripled or quadrupled for next year. Here we are at the end we're middle December as we record this. So in just a few weeks, you may have your renewal coming up. And if you didn't do what the professionals told you to do, you're going to have a really bad day.
Any cyber attack without any type of insurance, I can wreck a business, a nonprofit easily in seconds. So how do you go about training and giving those classes and information to nonprofits?
Right. So we're up at Nonprofit First on a regular basis. We also do some work with the Florida Association of Nonprofits. They shortened it. I think it's Florida Nonprofits officially. And I train Florida nonprofits twice a year. Usually it is February and July, if I remember the dates. They have a whole series. And we're at Nonprofits First probably every other month. And it's starting to queue up even faster because, again, people don't understand this. I don't expect them to understand all the intricacies. This is not speeds and feeds. This is, again, what is your business prepared for? Let's have a plan. And I'm going to give you my real title. Most people do not know what I really do, besides the cyber and other things. I'm a certified business resiliency manager. I've had that title for years, so I'm definitely wired different. And when I talk about resiliency, how do I keep your business running regardless of an incident? And I'm not defining it as cyber. I'm not saying COVID. I'm not saying anything specific. But what would you do if something happened? And the questions, and it's a real simple conversation. How long could you tolerate being out of business? In other words, your business is shut down. An hour, 2, 3, 4, can you handle that? Yeah, maybe. But if your business was down a day, a week, a month, what would you do to keep it running and survive? We're not gonna get into that conversation.
We can't,
But I want people to start thinking about what he's talking about. And no, I'm not just talking about hurricanes. We've proven, in fact, the day we're recording this, it is. I was swimming across Sunrise Boulevard to get in here. Only one lane of traffic worked, so I ran a little late. But the whole point is, what do you have in your business plan that has been well thought out, documented, and you've taken it to the next step? Which is what we would normally do is you'd have a 3-ring binder sitting behind your desk that would also be digital that says, if this happens, go here. What's plan B, C, and D?
Your contingency plans laid out in a perfect plan.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And
by the way, that's where some of the cybersecurity plays, because if you don't have that and you don't have a plan and this and that, you're ultimately going to fail. And we don't want that because we want to keep everybody healthy, happy. We don't want to lose members of our organizations. We don't want you getting shut down because you missed a little part.
So what motivates you to help nonprofits? Let's go back to the collaboration part.
Now, that's a great question. 5.5 years ago, when I joined the organization LAN, I had no idea what they were talking about.
Fair enough.
And because I'm really a community advocate, that's the title we publicize, right? I'm out there. I work in groups of communities, whether it's chambers, I work with nonprofits. I am on the board of some nonprofits, advisory or direct board. So I know what they experience. I had never done that before, but as I got deeper into the role, and by the way, 6 months after I started, we had this thing called COVID.
Yeah.
So we had nothing else to do other than sit on Zoom calls all bloody day long. There were days I was doing 10 or 15 of them at one time, but I got to connect, meet people. Again, it was virtual. T-shirt, shorts, pink bunny slippers, different motif than today, but to at least understand, because we had nothing else to do. We weren't selling anything. We're trying to connect, keep our brand out there, try to help people. And during that process, I started to do, as is nothing I never would have thought in my lifetime that I would do. I started doing these Zooms, or it was on Teams or other platforms. Remo was one of them. I started to do virtual fundraisers for nonprofit. Had no idea what I was doing. The first one I did was, wasn't great. And then we did one for, actually did a couple for Gilda's Club.
Okay,
right here in Broward, and that's Kim Pritano. I'm giving her a shout out. That we had no idea how to do it. It was March of 2020 when we all went to the shutdown. Her event that she was going to host at Nova Southeast got shut down for a virus we figured was going to last a couple of weeks. It went a little further, right?
It went a lot further than we actually all anticipated, so yes.
I wound up sitting in my house with a bunch of computers and a bunch of volunteers from Gilda's. We put on her event because it was critical to the community, especially healthcare, because she was giving, as part of the program, continuing education units or credits. So if you're a nurse, a practitioner, a doctor.
Very important, yeah.
And this was the first one I had ever done. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I understand the need, because she had hundreds of people that were going to come to Nova. Didn't work out, so we did it virtually. I had a bunch of volunteers from Gilda's Club, and did they know what they're doing? No. We're flying by the seat of our pants.
Sure.
But the issue, or why it was important, is, hey, these people need the education. She lined up like 12 doctors, a bunch of staff and whatever that were going to present. I did a bunch of training or practice sessions, and the doctors or their assistants that did not show up for those sessions, I guarantee you, when we did it live, was not great. That was the first one. And we got better and better. I've done some for Urban League of Palm Beach County, and we did some of these. I did some for South Florida Institute on Aging. They made the most money ever. It was, in fact, when we did the virtual one, they made more money that day than they had the previous 4 years combined.
Wow.
Combined, because there was no cost, right? You're not renting a hotel. There's no food and beverage. And if you were hungry, leave your bedroom, make a left, go to the kitchen.
Sure.
You go fed yourself. But we figured out real fast, wait a minute, this is productive, right? And I know today here, whereas we walk into 2025, the issue of working from home, working at an office, that debate will go on forever.
It will.
And
yeah,
I'm not going to pick sides, but I like working at home, T-shirt, shorts, pink bunny slippers. But then I'm out in the community. I'm out at chambers. I'm out at things. And that's the way we do our business. We understand the value of a chamber or an organization. That went a long way, but hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it helped a little bit. So the next question I really wanted to touch base on is, what challenges have you encountered working with nonprofits, and how have you addressed them?
Well, I've already kind of given you the hint, which is you got to have a plan. We got to sit down. Let's not turn on something today and start it tomorrow. Wait, hold on. You've got a lot of people at risk. You've got clients, you've got patients, depending what you are. We have to do this correctly. You've really got to have an assessment of what you have and where you're trying to go, which is no different than any other business. Startup, for-profit, doesn't matter where you're going to go.
Right.
You can have great passion. You can have a great idea. Your value proposition is wonderful, but that doesn't help, right? We have to figure out collectively what you're trying to do and what you're, at the end of the day, where is it you want to be and what group of people are you helping? Because we have to make sure that this does not fail. because if you're going to take people in,
Yep.
there, you've got to be able to sustain.
Yeah. And I mean, like nonprofits are making a huge difference in the community, and we
Mhm.
want them all to succeed,
Mhm.
and this is one of the reasons that we started this podcast, is because I want to help them understand different ways that they can collaborate with for-profits or with other nonprofits, so that they have a little bit better structure. They can build further and hopefully leave a legacy that's going to continue beyond them, because if it's just them and they don't have that plan, it'll end with them. And that's kind of the sad truth.
Right.
And I don't want that to happen. I want them to look beyond, and I want them to make a bigger impact. And
that's the goal. So
it is the goal.
To the original question, why we do it, where we love to help in the community.
Yeah.
Nonprofits, they're relatively simple. They're typically smaller than the customers we deal with, but they have the same challenges. And we just have, it's an awareness that, no, you should not do that. Let's put a plan together. And there are plenty of nonprofit consultants listening, hopefully. And, there's an opportunity here for you to sit down and determine what the next steps are.
Right.
And you're not going to solve this in a day. This is a phased approach. You start here and you work your way through that.
Right. And that's one of the biggest challenges, is we need to help educate them to get them to that next stage. And
Right.
I think us as for-profit companies, LAN Infotech, Visuals by Momo, we have something that we can teach them and we can help them.
Right.
And I think that's one of the most important and most impactful ways that we can do as business, is to help these nonprofits thrive. So what is your future vision or impact that LAN Infotech is going to be giving to the world?
Wow. That's a really broad question. I'm buying time so I could answer that. Now, so again, we're about the community.
Yeah.
I don't carry a salesperson's title. I'm a community account director, right? And we're trying to help. We're trying to educate. There are so many things that we see that we just can't share. A lot of what we do is through an organization called Infragard, INFRAGARD. There's no U in there, .org or gov. I forget which one, probably org. Where it's the FBI Secret Service Homeland Security. We get information that is really confidential. I can't share, right? I can talk in a private setting, but generally speaking, we can do so much. And we see things on the security side you don't want to know about. But in a group setting where it's private, we can have those kind of conversations where how you protect yourself, protect your organization, protect your family. Some of us still work at home. When we morphed from the pandemic, those of us who went home and went, I'm more productive at home. Boss says, fine. I know that's another topic. That's a whole episode on its own. But how do you protect family? Because a lot of us work at home on the same cable network as our kids and our family. How do you protect yourself? And where I'm going, which is a really difficult conversation, we will not get into it here today, but we've got to start thinking differently because our world has changed. Whether you accept that or not, it literally is the parents understanding what your kids are doing for 10 or 18 hours a day, just going blah, 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 or, with their thumbs. So we'll stop there, but it's all about how do we impact and protect the community? That's our role.
You don't know who's on the other line. Unless you can see them face to face, you don't know who's on the other line.
And that's not true either. Because you can also, and I'll say the word again, AI, on a Zoom or anything else. You may think that's Chris, but that's really some type of avatar that looks exactly like him. Again, that's another episode for a different time. But we're telling people, listen to what the experts say.
Yeah, we're living in a different age. And actually, one of the things that we did want to bring you on here is for a special treat for the whole entire audience. To learn a little bit about something that I really think that LAN Infotech is going to leave as its legacy in some ways. So,
I'm getting verklempt already, just so you know.
So Glenn here is going to open up his computer and he's going to show you something that LAN Infotech has put together that's going to help nonprofits amazingly move forward in the next coming years, for the future. So,
and by the way, if you're going to ask me for a projection on that, no. If you're going to say, well, what's this going to be like in 5 years?
Who knows?
We don't, because this is escalating beyond what anybody thought.
Yeah, there
But
really is.
there are advantages for nonprofits to at least take a look at it, try it. You don't have to institute anything, get us back involved, but we'll, in a minute here, we'll go on and show people, wow, how fast they could potentially find funding that they had never thought of.
All right, so we're going to pause here for a moment, and then we'll get set up and then continue the show. So now that we're set up, we're going to talk a little bit about what we're discovering here. So what is this program?
Okay, before we go into the program,
Okay.
I had to build something for this demo.
Yes.
Okay, and we made up a fictitious company run by Chris and Momo in the background. Wave, Chris and Momo. So I took some of your principles.
Yep.
I used AI. I have no problem with anybody using AI as long as it's done safely and securely.
Correct.
I will be talking to a school later today, and that's the way we are approaching it. Kids, students, people are using it. Are they doing it the right way? I'm not sure.
Sure.
And what we want at the end of the day with AI is critical thinking. You could spend, again, the 18 hours doing AI, but when I ask you a question, you need to know what's right or wrong. And I don't need you to look it up. I need you to tell me, here's why it is or isn't, and tell me why.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So all I did was set up a very simple fictitious company.
This is completely fictitious.
Right.
Visual Grants Foundation.
Right.
Not a real company.
Right.
But.
And there was no drinking involved when we created this.
Yes.
This was completely sober. So we believe every nonprofit has a story. I'm just going to show you. I made this as minimal as possible for a reason.
Okay.
Because I want what we're going to show to take over.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to shut the document down.
Yep.
Okay? I'm going to do this as best I can live. And if something happens, we blame the internet.
We'll blame
anybody has a problem. All right. So So now this is a proposal machine. Let me get rid of that. So this is something LAN Infotech has partnered with a company called Hats AI. Working with them for months and months. We released this just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
But here's my first live test in front of an audience that's going to be broadcast. I have no idea where. Okay. So this is the system, the application. So I'm going to hand this to you now. I want you to tell me how much funding you're going to need and get as crazy as you want. Ask for the moon. I don't care, because this is not really going to go anywhere, but it's going to produce something for Chris here, and he's going to go.
All right, so I'll
put a number in there.
I got $250,000 in there. Okay.
Go crazy. Make it $1 million.
Make it $1 million?
Make it $1 million. Go ahead. Because again, we're not going to submit this because us two goofballs would go.
All right. 1 million.
Put $1 million. Now, I want you to write in one sentence. That's all I want. What you would do with it. Now, if you want to support other nonprofits, if you want to create a program, whatever Chris wants to do.
All right. So I'm going to create a program that educates nonprofits.
I'm grabbing a sip while you do this.
On video marketing nationwide. Okay.
Okay. And then here, I'm going to upload that document.
Okay.
It'll give us something. And I'll tell you why this is all important as we pass the computer back and forth. So I'm going to upload that document. Now,
so this is the Word document that
I created.
So basically you would already, like, as a nonprofit, they'd already have this information kind of like laid out, like, this is our company, these are our values, this is what we do. And that's what you're uploading, correct?
If this was real, I would take multiple documents. So
gotcha.
As nonprofits request this type of grant funding, we could put more in there. And then this is an LLM, a large language model that begins to learn.
Sure.
In this case, I made it up. It's all for fun.
So this one is very simple. It's only one document, but you could add.
And it was like a paragraph, right?
Right. Could you add old grants?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So like anything you've already submitted, you could add it.
Even if you hadn't won it and you lost it, that's okay. We upload.
Okay.
So the more you put in, the smarter that starts to get.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. I don't want a cover letter.
Okay.
We could do that another point. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So now I've taken that letter. I've taken your description.
Yeah.
Go ahead and click generate.
All right.
And I'm also going to show you there were multiple AIs built into this. Now, you see how fast this went. It went faster than the upload, right? It is now spitting out a lot of information. And we're going to come back in a second. And it's designing your budget. It's breaking it apart. My fingers don't leave my hands. I haven't done anything. Nothing is predetermined. I took the minimum amount of information. So if you had given me a whole lot of stuff, this would probably still be running and doing more. It's a fake company. But what I'm going to go back and show, and it's a touchscreen, thank God. Okay. So, if you want to just run that with your finger, there you go. He's using the right finger this time. And it will start formulating ideas, okay? Mission and alignment. I just kind of made all this up.
Sure.
But the funding request, you can see purposes, it's already done this. And you probably hadn't thought of it. And I know you're an AI junkie like I am. So we know how to do this, but this is taking it for a person or a company that has no formal training. We're taking that out of their hands.
You've already created the model for them to just upload and use,
right?
Not have to go, oh, I need to go train it and teach it and give it the code, basically to say, this is what I want you to do.
Right.
So, okay.
So now we're at the bottom, but we're going to try something else. See on the top right corner there? There are 12 AI programs that this uses. If you like this one, great. If you want to try some other ones, pick one. I don't care. It's your choice. You've got Google, which is Gemini. You've got Meta. Now you're going to see it's about a 5 or 10 second delay generally, but this is going to come in a different language. And you can copy them all, try them, see what works.
And see how it looks and how it generates content.
And again, there's no coding involved.
Sure.
And the reason we're doing this is to simplify. You can look at this and go, wait a minute. If this is so automated, I can use multiple language. I can reallocate work of other people to do things that are more important in my company. But the point is, we have a few programs built for nonprofits and a whole bunch of programs for profits to do things. We don't have time.
No, we don't have time. But
but
if you want to learn more
right.
about this and this application and how they can actually get access to it, so tell us how they contact LAN Infotech and how they get started.
Okay. So you could certainly do it by 2 tin cans with a string in the middle. That's easy to find me. I knew I could trick him up. If you can't find me, that means you're not trying. You could hit me up an email. That's a simple one.
What's your email?
G Benjamin, GBenjamin at LAN Infotech, LANINFOTCH. Find me on social media. I'm typically at Glen Benjamin, 1 N in Glen. You can actually call me. I actually occasionally answer my phone.
Occasionally.
Right. I screen it. If I don't recognize you, it's not going to. Okay. 954-560-3974. Again, social media. You can WhatsApp me. There are a variety of ways that, unfortunately, I answer, and you have to. I mean, the world has changed, right?
The world has changed.
The world has changed, and find me. Call Chris. Chris can find me.
I can definitely connect you.
And we do a lot of work in the nonprofit and for-profit space. We beg and implore you to have a plan. You've heard me now say that 7 or 8 times. Just don't go out there and try to wing this stuff. And by the way, if you want to use AI, we're fine, but we're going to do an assessment before you take this internally. We're going to make sure that this stuff doesn't leak out, because there's another thing we do within AI called Microsoft Copilot. Those of you that know it, great.
Yep.
But the great part of Copilot is it knows all your information already.
Fantastic.
So it knows your email, your SharePoint, your Teams, your OneDrive.
Yep.
And I'm missing something not important. But all you would have to, if you're using a Copilot, for example, like that, you would just say, hey, give me a quarter-over-quarter projection on my top sponsors, how much they're generating, and create a report, do it in Word, do it in PowerPoint, and within about the same amount of time, you'd have all that written out. We have to make sure that when you do it and you save it, it's protected. It doesn't leak out, because your proprietary data would be floating out there, probably on the dark web, and they're selling that for pennies. You don't want to give up your intellectual property. So our job is to do the assessment so it stays inside your confines, your tenant, and doesn't leak out. So these are the things we have to have really important conversations. You got to tell us what you want this. So,
Sure.
I think we've run out of time. So
again, thank you so much for being on Visualize, where we collaborate and we work with nonprofits to help them succeed and excel. So thank you again, Glen Benjamin, for being on the show today.
You need the badge?
I do need the badge, barely.
Right. Okay.
And we look forward to having you on again.
I appreciate it. And we will be back
Yes.
in 25.
Perfect. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Visualize. We hope that the inspiration and practical insights can help you foster stronger connections and meaningful change. Don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and leave us a review. To learn more about Visuals by Momo and how we support collaboration and storytelling, visit visualsbymomo.com. A huge thank you to everyone out there listening. Until next time, remember, collaboration fuels change, and your connections can inspire the world.